15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome back to Americans Talk FPL. I'm your host, Jason. My co-host, Bharat, could not be here tonight, unfortunately, but he will be here to guide you guys through next week going into the potential double game week 35. But for now, let's get into game week 34. Kind of a strange game week in that there's not a whole lot going on right now. A lot coming up, though, so it might be a good week to hold a transfer, maybe. We'll get into that a little bit later, though. So first of all, I'd like to shout out Fantasy Football Scout here at Americans Talk FPL. We are proud to be part of their Scout Academy. And if you are not a member on their site, we highly recommend going to do that. You'll have some great stats you can look at. We use it every week to make our decisions. All right, let's get into this. So a few talking points. One of the big ones right now is Bruno Fernandes. He hasn't really been delivering lately. But just kind of looking at his underlying stats, he's over the past 4 game weeks in the Premier League, he's still the number 3 overall midfielder in expected goal involvement. So, I think his stats are down slightly from his early season exploits and even like late last season. But overall, they're still some of the highest in the league. I think it's more just kind of a period of bad form and bad luck, but I think it's going to get right very soon. And then right before I started recording this in the Europa League, he had 2 goals and 2 assists as United kind of dismantled Roma. So, if you're worried about his form, I think this is a great reason for you to either hold or buy Bruno at this point. Moving on from that, Danny Ings, injured again, might be out for the year. Very unfortunate, as Southampton are about to probably have a double game week in 35, but he will no longer be an option. Rafinha remains out for Leeds. It sounds like it's not a long-term injury. It's just like a hematoma, but until it heals, he has to remain out. But the good news is that once it does heal, he should be good to go. So with Leeds having a nice upcoming schedule, hopefully he's back soon. Then I already kind of touched on it a little bit, but it looks like we're going to get a double game week 35 and then a blank game week 36. Nothing's been announced as of right now as I'm recording this, so just keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully they announce it soon, as that is next game week. But just taking from Ben Krellin off Twitter, he has his spreadsheets, which I highly recommend you go check out if you haven't already. But he's already predicted the likely doubles at this point to be Man United, Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Everton, Southampton, and Crystal Palace. While in game week 36, the likely blanks are going to be Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United, and Leicester. So, I wouldn't recommend doing too much until we get these kind of nailed down. That's kind of why I want to bank my transfer this week and to see who actually gets the double game weeks before I make any moves. But as of right now, my plan is I'm already pretty loaded up on Man United. I got some Leicester, some Chelsea, some Villa. So I'll probably just use my free transfers I have to load up for 35 as much as I can. And then I think for me, game week 36 is probably going to be a great free hit week. Because if I load up on all those players, then, I'm obviously going to be missing them in the next week. So I think that's probably my strategy right now. I do enjoy saving my free hit for the last week since it gets a little crazy and, a lot of teams have nothing to play for. A lot of youth players get out there. But this year it could be a little different because fans might be allowed back in the stadiums at that point. And I kind of think in the back of my head, if that is the case, then a lot of the teams might be trying a little bit harder than what they normally would. Even teams with nothing to play for, they still might want to get their starters out there and give their fans a good show. Same with the players. They might be pretty fired up to have fans back in the stands. So I could see teams trying a little bit harder in the last week or 2 of the season if the fans are allowed back. So I wouldn't feel too bad about using my free hit in game week 36 if that's the case. All right, so here's my team. Game week 33, I got 64 points. Got a nice green arrow up to 35K, so I'm pretty happy with that. Still hoping I can get top 20K to close out the year, but it's going to be a battle. We'll see if I can do that. Overall, pretty happy with my team. I got a triple Liverpool at this point with Alexander-Arnold, Jota, and Salah. I love the way they close out the season. They have a lot to play for, so I'm all in on them. I also went triple Man United. Luke Shaw, he's been the chance creator king lately. So I think he's definitely going to be a for sure hold for me. Bruno Fernandes already touched on. He's a hold despite his kind of dip in fantasy output recently. But I think he's poised to finish strong here. And then Mason Greenwood, who's also had pretty insane underlying stats over the last 4 weeks. I believe he's in the top 6 for midfielders for XGI over the last 4 game weeks. But yeah, he's been in great goal scoring form. Came off the bench in the Europa League and scored a goal almost immediately. So he's still kind of got that good form going on into this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm playing Liverpool, so it might be a cagey affair, but overall, I do like him to close out the season. Kelechi Iheanacho, if you don't have him, I'd recommend getting him in immediately. He's been on fire, and his underlying stats are kind of backing it up. He's really kind of overtaken Jamie Vardy as far as who's the Leicester striker to own, even regardless of price. When you factor in he's only like roughly half the cost, though, it's even better. So he's definitely the way to go for me. Ollie Watkins, he just keeps staying in my team somehow because I always have another fire to put out somewhere else. But with Villa getting a double in 35, I think he's going to stay in a little bit longer. Rafinha, I'm really hoping he can get back soon. Leeds do close out the season nicely. So for now, I think I want to hold him. But if this injury keeps lingering, I may have to get out eventually. But it's nice that he's pretty cheap, so he's just staying on my bench. He's not burning a huge hole in my budget. Cresswell, hopefully he's back soon, but he's likely going to be making way for someone else soon, just so I can free up some budget and get a Leicester defender, maybe an Arsenal defender in before 35, once that gets announced, of course. And then Kane is just going to be a mainstay. So yeah, for me, I think I'm going to bank my free transfer this week, and then Game Week 35, load up on as many of the double players as I can. Hopefully getting up to 8 or 9 would be ideal for me. So here's a quick look at the upcoming fixtures to close out the season. Obviously, the doubles and blanks are not factored into this yet, so keep that in mind. But overall, I do like Everton have some nice fixtures coming up. They look like they will get a double in 35. So I think a guy like a Richarlison or even Calvert-Lewin could be good to bring in over this period for them. Leeds, although their attacking numbers have kind of dropped off lately as far as a team output, they do close out the season pretty strong. They have been stronger defensively as their offense has kind of declined. So Stuart Dallas is going to remain kind of a very good option to close out the season. And I'm really hoping Rafinha can make it back for those last 3 matches or so, because that would be a great time to start him. Leicester, 2 more great matches in this nice fixture run they're in, plus probably a double in 35. So I definitely, I would stay invested on them if you can. They close out the season a bit tough, though, with United, Chelsea, Tottenham, although Tottenham defensively are probably nothing to write home about at this point, so maybe that won't be too bad of a fixture. Liverpool, once they get the Man United game out of the way, close out really strong. That's why I'm kind of advocating for the triple up, especially with them chasing top 4. I think Salah, Jota, and Alexander-Arnold, they all have insane underlying stats over the last 4 weeks. Salah's top for mids, Jota's top 10 for sure, and Alexander-Arnold is one of the top defenders as well for attacking output. So I would really strongly advocate for those guys to close out the season. And then Tottenham, manager change, obviously with Mourinho out, Ryan Mason in to close out the season at least. They lost the Carabao Cup final to Man City. Didn't look great in that one, but they do have some nice fixtures here with Sheffield, Leeds, Wolves, and Aston Villa. So I think, Harry Kane, he remains essential to me. I had to get out of Son because I needed some playing players last week, unfortunately. But I think Son would also be a great player to have to close out this run as well. He looks like he's been playing a little bit more centrally under Mason, and he's had some decent chances from the one game I watched. So he could be another good option for Spurs, but I wouldn't trust their defense too much right now. All right, so Watchlist. Obviously not a whole lot of weeks left, not a lot of transfers left to make, but some of the ones I'm looking at are Timothy Castagna for Leicester. 5.8 is a little pricey, but he has been getting forward a lot in their last couple of games. He has a goal and an assist, and I've seen him. He has a lot of touches in the box as well. I just love the positions he's getting in. It's almost like he's doing what we had all hoped Ricardo Pereira was going to do when he came back from injury. But Castagna looks like the guy to own, and he has a pretty low ownership. So going into Leicester's great schedule and double, I think he's a great option right now. Some under the radar options maybe would be like Matthias Pereira of West Brom. He's cheap, 5.5. He just keeps producing as well. I believe he's second in XGI for mids over the last 4 weeks, only to Salah. So West Brom, I don't think they're going to have a double, but they also won't have a blank. So he could be a sneaky option for some points. Hopefully West Brom stay in the relegation hunt at least for now to get out of that. So he still has something to play for. Then Chris Wood of Burnley has been on fire recently. He's been scoring and assisting like crazy over the last 5 weeks. His underlying stats are kind of backing that up as well. And Burnley have a pretty nice schedule to finish the year out. No double, but he's a good differential to look into as well. All right. So game week 34 checklist. How are we going to get green arrows here? First, I was going to say, I know Diogo Jota hasn't performed too great as far as fantasy output since I first recommended him a few weeks ago. But with Liverpool's schedule and his underlying stats, I think he's a for sure hold right now. Same with Bruno. For me, Bruno, with his high ownership, if you get out of him now and he explodes like he did today, you're going to get punished pretty badly. Plus, for me, at least, I have a ton of value tied up in him from holding him for so long. So it'd be very hard to get out of him, and then, you're not going to get back in at that point if you have all that value tied up in him. Third, start planning for double game week 35 and blank game week 36. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's happening yet, but we at least have an idea. So start to formulate your plan together. For me, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be banking my transfer for now, spend my free transfers for players in double game week 35, and then probably free hit in blank game week 36 is what I'm looking at. At least for this week, I know I've been kind of pumping up the Man United and Liverpool assets, but when they face each other lately, it's been a pretty cagey affair. So defenders are probably pretty good to start. But I would not be captaining anyone in this match. If you need someone to bench, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to bench, maybe a Jota or a Greenwood in this match. That's only if you need to. I'll be starting all of my players because I kind of have to. But basically, once this match is out of the way, I think both teams are going to be much better off. And they're both going to close out the season pretty strong, I'm hoping. As far as your captain this week, for me, there's 2 guys I'm considering. First is going to be Harry Kane against Sheffield United. I'm 90% there that he's the guy I'm going to go with. It's hard to go against Harry Kane in that match. Second one, though, would be Kelechi Iheanacho, who's in searing form right now. He's up against Southampton, who have one of the probably worst high-line defenses in the league. So I think he could be set to continue his scoring run. But for me, I think Kane just edges it against the pretty pathetic Sheffield United team who has really nothing left to play for at this point, whereas Spurs do have a chance to get back into Europe, so they'll still be trying pretty hard. So for me, it's Kane. Iheanacho is a distant second, but still an option. All right, top recommendations for me for the rest of the season. Who are my top overall picks? For me, it's got to be Harry Kane, Mo Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think I hit on all those guys pretty well throughout this episode, so I won't go into it too much more. Top differentials, so people under 10% ownership. I'm pretty thankful to say this list has changed almost every week, so the guys I recommend tend to do well and then get even higher than 10% ownership, therefore dropping off this list. Or in some cases, they get injured, which is very unfortunate for like a Pedro Neto. But anyways, for me, Timothy Castagna for Leicester. I think he's, I mentioned him earlier, is a great guy to watch. He's a little expensive at 5.8, but his ownership is pretty low. with Leicester's schedule and his attacking output he's been doing recently. I think he's a great option. Rudiger for Chelsea. I think any Chelsea defender like Azpilicueta could be in here as well. But I happen to have Rudiger, so that's why he's in here. I'm a little shaky on the Chelsea wingbacks just due to possible rotation. So I'd personally go for either Rudiger or Azpilicueta for security of starts. And with Rudiger being cheaper, that's why he made my list. Lastly, I mentioned him earlier, but Chris Wood, been in great form for Burnley recently, scoring and assisting almost for fun over the last 5-6 weeks. Pretty good schedule to close out the year, and he's got the kind of underlying stats to back it up. I know it almost feels weird taking a Burnley attacker, especially when they're not going to be one of the teams who has a double, but that's just the kind of form he's in right now. If you're really looking to kind of climb ranks and make up some ground on some of the higher teams, he could be a good option to look into to kind of be that differential for you to close out the year. All right, so last, we're just going to quick look at the Americans Talk FPL Open Cup. I think this league's pretty much decided with Andromeda FC. They are at 36 as an overall rank, which is pretty insane. They're closer to being the number one overall player than I am to catching them at this point. So congratulations. I think you're going to be the winner. At this point, I'm just hoping I can get into that top 5. So we'll see. My co-host Barat finally back in the top 10, though. So congrats on that. All right, that's all I have this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. We post stuff on there as well. If we have any last-minute decisions and changes we make, that's where you're going to find it. So follow us on there if you don't want to get caught out on anything that happens after we film the episode. With that being said, good luck, get some green arrows, and see you next week.